Harry's Wife, Part 101.7. Lieutenant Shutdown. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. Narcissists commonly use lieutenants, or, for our transatlantic cousins, lieutenants. Somebody that is more than just a member of the coterie. Somebody that can be relied upon to do the narcissist bidding. Sometimes that bidding is direct. It might be, in certain rudimentary cases, she's caused me a problem. I need you to teach her a lesson. Go and smash a window to her house. Where the narcissist instructs that loyal lieutenant to go and do something harmful towards a victim. There are certain instances, and they're usually normals or even narcissists themselves, that go along with such behaviour. More usually, the narcissist has recruited somebody to their cause that is either somebody that receives a reward for their loyalty, for instance, money, exposure, access to certain networks, support with their own professional endeavours, or quite simply, the individual's views align with that of the narcissist, and therefore they believe in the same cause. This can often be a consequence of the brainwashing that goes on. So, for example, where a narcissist has an intimate victim, or perhaps, let's say, a family member, or even, let's say, somebody at work, when that person is being devalued because they've threatened the control of the narcissist in some way, as you know, the narcissist may assert control directly over them. But if that's not possible, or it's been attempted and failed, the narcissism shifts the narcissist to the second assertion of control, indirect. Sometimes this is done in a benign way, by triangulating that person with the listener, and they're talked about in glowing terms, but more usually it's smearing. And so what happens is, in order to assert control over the primary offender, maybe the IPPS, or a colleague, or a brother, the narcissist talks to somebody else, a friend about their wife, another family member about that brother, another colleague about the other colleague. And the narcissist may use the truth, but more usually a half-truth or nowhere near the truth, to pollute the mind of the listening person, the listening friend, the listening colleague, the listening family member. Their reaction, supporting the narcissist, allows that unconscious assertion of control to be obtained over the absent person who's being smeared. But it also does something else. It starts to create a picture in the mind of the listener, and if they are suggestible to the overtures of the narcissist, and there is repeated smearing, not as part of an orchestrated and calculated campaign, the unaware narcissist does not do that, but just by the habitual need to assert control over the absent individual, then the listener, that friend, that other family member, that other colleague, is repeatedly told about how the other person who is being smeared is awful, how badly they behave, and often they lack the objectivity and critical thinking to go and speak to that person to find out for themselves whether this smearing is accurate. Instead, they just swallow what they're being told. Part of it might be because they're fearful of the narcissist's reaction if they don't respond in a favourable fashion. Sometimes it might be because they have their own dislike of the individual being spoken about, and it feels good to have somebody else accord with that view. Sometimes they want to curry favour with the narcissist. But the product is that it brainwashes that individual into accepting the narcissist version of the truth, so that they see that the innocent individual is a horrible, abusing wife, or a lazy colleague, or an out-for-themselves member of the family, and it thus colours their view. And then in due course, when that innocent party tries to confront the listener to explain you're dealing with a narcissist, they won't listen. Their mind has become so polluted to the smearing over what could be months and even years that they can't hear anything else to the contrary, for fear of being made to look stupid, or that they quite simply believe the narcissist over everybody else. And thus this is how coterie members are created, but also lieutenants in particular, that they're fed a steady diet of propaganda, which they then swallow, and, as I've mentioned, for a variety of reasons, It might be the brainwashing. It might be that they've got something that they want that the narcissist can provide. Sometimes it's fear. They end up according with the views and requirements of the narcissist, and they become a lieutenant. In those circumstances, while there might be an explicit statement that they do this or do that, more usually they're galvanized into action by their own volition. That they hear another piece of poor behavior being exhibited towards the narcissist, and they feel motivated to ride into battle. They feel the necessity to tackle those wrongs that they see are being propagated about the narcissist. And we have this with Harry's wife, as one of her notable lieutenants, Dr. Shola Moz Shogbamimu, also known as Dr. Shouty Shola, who is a clear lieutenant of Harry's wife. And in an article by The Express, written by Thibault Spurlet, the headline reads, "Don't keep going on Harry's wife. Vine," Jeremy Vine, the broadcaster, cuts off Dr. Shola after attempt to hijack Charles's talk. Dr. Shola Moz Shogbamimu was interrupted by Jeremy Vine, not for the first time that Vine interrupts people, but that's a story for another day, as she attempted to stir a discussion on the potentially damaging impact of the new series of the Netflix series The Crown on King Charles to the treatment of Harry's wife. Dr. Moz Shogbamimu took aim at King Charles, unsurprisingly, saying the upcoming Netflix series of The Crown should move ahead despite the royal family's concerns around the portrayal of his dramatic breakup and bitter divorce with Diana, Princess of Wales. She attempted to draw a parallel between the portrayal of the new king to the treatment of his daughter-in-law Harry's wife has received at the hands of the establishment. Of course, as this loyal lieutenant always has to bang the propaganda drum for Harry's wife to help manage that facade and to show that she can nullify those threats to control. Remember, she doesn't realise that that's what she's doing. She truly believes that Harry's wife is hard done to. She swallowed the pity play because it suits Dr. Moz Shogbamimu to take up the drum of declaring the royal family to be racist, and that Harry's wife, as a biracial female, has been prejudiced and oppressed by their behaviour. It fits with Dr. Shola's narrative, and therefore Harry's wife becomes her own cause célèbre, which she can roll out to her own benefit, of course, and consequently that of Harry's wife, by attacking her opponents, thus seeking to nullify the threat to control, possibly causing people to feel sorry for Harry's wife to help manage that facade. These behaviours are repeatedly engaged in by her as a loyal lieutenant to Harry's wife, and she's at it again. Despite the topic being all about King Charles and the portrayal in The Crown, Dr. Shola has to make it about Harry's wife. She attempts to draw the parallel. However, the article continues, but Jeremy Vine intervened to stir the conversation back to the main topic, using the commentator to focus on the issue at hand. I think they meant to write steer, but there we are. Dr. Moz Shogbamimu said, "You need to understand his character still speaks to today. When you take that and apply some deductive reasoning to how King Charles and the royal family and the establishment treat Harry's wife." But Mr. Vine cut her off, saying, "Don't keep going on Harry's wife. We're talking about Charles now." Jeremy Vine and 5 panellists were discussing the impact of the new season on King Charles, with broadcaster Carol Malone noting that the royal family is very worried about how people are going to react as the man has just become king. Dr. Moz Shogbamimu said, because of the recent videos of Charles and the way he was treating his staff, she suggested King Charles should go through the discomfort of watching his personal life being broadcast because of newly instigated King's behaviours towards royal staff. Of course, notice the hypocrisy of this comment, that she's content for King Charles to go through this discomfort of watching it because of the recent treatment. But what about the repeated treatment by Harry's wife of staff that, of course, has come to the fore once again with the publication of Valentine Lowe's book? Are they not allowed to have their views articulated, and should not Harry's wife suffer the discomfort of hearing those views articulated? Oh no, of course not, because that's different. That's racist to talk about Harry's wife, and you can't talk about Harry's wife. You're not allowed to do so. If you do, you're a hater. You're not allowed to observe objectively about her behaviours and compare them from evidence which keeps coming up again and again and again from different sources. No. But Dr. Shola is allowed to say, Charles, because of the way he treated his staff, he should be subjected to this discomfort, demonstrating the hypocrisy of Dr. Scholler. Charles reportedly fired dozens of Clarence House staff who were expected to be transferred into his new household. It's worth pointing out that how would taxpayers react to the fact that Charles would keep two households, one as king and that from when he was Prince of Wales? There would be duplication of effort, surely. There is the monarch's staff and then there is the Prince of Wales staff. And of course, it's, as I understand it, it's usually the case that when a particular title holder no longer holds that title because they've moved to another, that acts as an automatic termination of the terms of service of the relevant staff. So it wasn't a haughty response from Charles saying, fuck it, you're all dismissed. It's actually the natural order of events. And also, there is the point that people would question, why are you keeping two households? Your mother has gone, you can now use hers, and therefore you don't need yours, do you? The Prince of Wales got his own staff. Now, there might be instances where there could be some amalgamation, but a lot of people would be criticising him if he kept on all of those people when there was no necessity of doing so. And, of course, here we have Dr. Scholler banging the drum, as always, for Harry's wife as a loyal lieutenant, but Mr. Vine, Jeremy Vine, intervening and pointing out that she's essentially indeed banging that drum, and she must stop doing so. A useful example of the lieutenant in action, and, of course, the pervasive nature of Harry's wife. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.